Welcome everybody to Networking and Conferences and Survival Game. Woo!
You must be louder.
Oh, right.
You've
Yeah,
got
only
it.
one.
No, it's right there.
Oh, thank you.
Click on.
He knows what he's doing.
We're not actually in game though.
Okay, my name is Nick. I'm the founder of the Game Developers of Australia Discord. This here is Jacob. This is Ella, and this is Faye. Do you want to introduce us?
Sure. Yep, so I prefer to go by Ella, but my name is Gabriella. I am the Communications Manager at Infinity Plus 2. Infinity Plus 2 makes Gems of War and made all the Puzzle Quest games. And for those that are a little bit older...
Sorry, we're done.
they also made Battlecry and Warlords. So I do that by day, and by night I make indie games that explore mental health issues, and I release them for free. So that's what I do.
Hey everyone, I'm Jacob. You can call me Jake though. I'm a songwriter, composer, and video game developer. Just freelance. Recently, I worked with the team that created We Happy Few. I lived in Montreal for a bit, so that was a pretty exciting thing for me to work on as a designer. And I work on bits and pieces of video game music and sound designing type of things, pretty much.
I'm Faye. I teach at this university, which is how I managed to secure this lovely lecture hall by pestering the dean and kicking down the door whenever we needed something done. I also do game dev on the side. I also study postgrad at the same time, and it's tearing me apart, but it's a fun experience. I develop, which I do in my spare time, I try to develop games that focus on promoting, let's say, diversity and taking care of yourself and things like that. The most recent one was Reflections, which is free because I haven't figured out monetization yet.
It's really hard. So many hoops to jump through.
Awesome. So the first thing I'll say is that if you want us to go into further detail about any particular points, I just ask that you raise your hand and we'll get to you by the end of the slide before we move on. So some of you might be wondering why you're here. So we're doing this to equip game developers of all experience levels with the skills required to move into the games industry and strengthen your core social skills. People don't put enough value into soft skills like these. This is really crucial stuff. This is how I got my job. This is how Ella got their job. Yeah? So everyone here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is...
Yeah.
Sure. Everyone except Faye. Sorry. It's worth paying attention because these skills can be learned. They're not like innate things that you're born with. You learn these skills. And that's why you're here today, to learn from us. Oh, right. I should probably go through this up. So this is what we're actually doing today. So we'll start off with first impressions. So how you introduce yourself to the meeting. Hugs versus handshakes. So that one is all about like body language and just reading a conversation. Community involvement. So the things you can do outside of developing games to make yourself known, I guess. How you can help out and grow the industry. Events for a purpose. So we'll go through some of the key events that happen throughout the year, both in Australia and overseas. Survival of the fittest. So we'll be talking about self-care when it comes to conferences and events. We'll have a short intermission. In that period, you can go stretch your legs, grab some water, go to the toilet if you like.
You can also talk to each other.
Oh, yeah, you can do that too.
No, they can't do that till they get.
Yeah. Yeah. When we get back from that intermission, we will talk about fashion and how that plays a role in both events and networking as a whole. We will be talking about attitude, then etiquette and presence, including business cards and email and social media presence. And then we will have a practical section right at the end, and that's where we'll have like some snacks and some drinks and some awesome stuff. Awesome. So, Jacob, would you like to...
Yeah. kick us off? Hey everyone, thanks for coming today. It's nice to see lots of friendly faces here. It's a nice, cute little crowd, I think.
You're cute.
Look, that's what we're all here for.
Mike all night just heckling.
Yeah, I'm prepared for it. So, like Nick said, at the end, there's going to be a chance for us to kind of put everything into practice that we learned. And for some of you, if not all of you, the idea of meeting new people, particularly when you're in a situation by yourself or a new environment, can be really, really daunting. So hopefully by the end, we'll give you some skills that will help you feel much more comfortable and confident with that. So we're going to start with how to introduce yourself, how to get into that situation. One example is just bursting through the door. But generally, you want to try and keep a fairly professional manner. So if you're in a situation where there's kind of a lot of people around and you want to start talking to people, if you think about it more as a social thing rather than a networking thing, instantly you're going to relax a little bit more. Consider how you would make friends at work, at university, at another friend's place. It's not through asking about what people do and what you can get from them. It's not about asking for their business cards. You generally just comment, I don't know, something like, hey, this barbecue's really awful. What do you think? Or like, hey, how do you know so-and-so? It's a very, very casual thing. And if you start to approach networking and introducing yourself to people from this social point, it's going to make you feel so much more comfortable to even do that in the first place. If you do want to start talking to someone and you have nothing to comment on, like there's no bad barbecue or there's nothing strange happening around you, some conversation starters could be stuff like, what brings you to the event? What are you enjoying? Where are you from? What did you think of that talk? And what do you do? So all of these questions are very open-ended. If you ask yes or no questions, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to progress the conversation. So whenever you ask, try and ask something that will actually get someone to say a full sentence. And from that sentence, you can keep a conversation going. I guarantee there'll be at least one thing that you can ask them about. Usually it's good to ask a couple of questions and then a conversation will naturally flow from there. Eventually, hopefully, if you start talking to someone, they're going to ask you about yourself. And that's can sometimes be the scary bit. As soon as the attention is turned on you, you think, oh God, what do I do? What do I say to this person? How do I look cool? How do I tell them about this amazing game that I'm working on? How do I sell myself to them like right now? A way to kind of get around that is to literally practice an elevator pitch. I'm sure all of you have heard of this term, and it, I guess, comes from, if you could say this by the time an elevator goes from one floor to another, presumably not in like a 70-story building, then that's a good length for an elevator pitch. So 1 or 2 sentences is really good. We had our elevator pitches earlier, but I'll give you a bit more of a formal version of my one. Hey Jake, what do you do? Tell me about yourself. Hey, person X. I'm a freelance songwriter and game developer focused on narrative-driven projects with strong emotive elements. Most recently, I worked as a designer on We Happy Few VR and wrote the music for Nom Nom Apocalypse, which I'm showcasing at PAX. There are so many things in that pitch that they can ask me about. They can ask me about working on We Happy Few. They can ask me about PAX. They can ask me about being a designer, being a songwriter. They can ask me about being freelance. I mentioned narrative-driven and emotive projects. That's a very, very specific thing that's much more interesting, like I'm working on a first-person shooter. There's so much more there. I think, Ella, did you want to jump in with an example as well?
You've pretty much heard mine. Mine is so short, it is actually ridiculous. It's really simple. It's like, hi, I'm Ella. By day, I'm a communications manager at Gems of War, and by night, I create indie games that explore mental health. Really simple. You don't need to make it really, really long. It's lovely to mention projects, but if you don't even have that amount of time, just something really short and simple that gives people a few things that they can then latch onto. But the quicker and easier it is and the more you practice it, the more natural it feels every time you do it, and you'll be doing it a lot.
Absolutely. And the different kind of conversations you have will lend themselves to different things. So you can have kind of your very, very formal one that you kind of say as if it was written down in front of you, like I just did, but then you can take that and make it very, very casual. Particularly, again, if you're focusing on these kind of friendships or very social situations, the more casual you are about it, the more kind of comfortable you and the other people are going to feel. One thing that a lot of people ask and I think struggle with is going, hey, I'm a student, I don't actually have any real-world experience yet. How do I kind of give my elevator pitch? How do I convince someone that I'm interesting, that I'm someone that they want to talk to, and how do I not get shut down as soon as I say that I'm a student? Sometimes that can happen as soon as you say you're a student. Sometimes people kind of go, oh, I get a lot of students talking to me, so I'm not as interested because you just want something. So I think if you are a student, you actually have the power to change the mindset about students, and you also kind of have this, because you haven't got so much experience, you can kind of leverage that and say almost what you want to be doing. So an example pitch, if you're a student, could be something like, I'm a 3D character artist and I love working with low poly art styles. I've been working on a small indie title that's being showcased at PAX, but I'm starting to look at indie studios to go on full-time with. So from there are a few questions that the person you're talking to could ask. If they do ask if you're a student, always be honest. There's nothing weird than someone trying to convince you that they're something that they're not. Be honest about your skills, about your level. The more genuine you are, the more people are going to be attracted to you and interested in talking to you. People will sense as soon as you're not genuine. That's a very, very big thing. The last thing about elevator pitches, I think, is actually just practicing them. Like, it seems ridiculous. You don't want to go home and like practice your elevator pitch in the mirror. But if you do that, that will actually help you so much because you will have said the words out loud. And when someone turns around in a surprise situation to ask you what you do, you'll already have something so well versed in your head, you can just pull that out straight away. You're not going to be floundering or kind of wondering what to say to them.
I recommend also like writing your elevator pitch down first as you're sort of like developing it and working on it, so you can see it and you can edit it. It's just easier to work like from paper or just from a computer screen. Also, I found out recently that a big benefit of that is I no longer have to write bios when I submit these places because it's written and it's done. I don't have to rewrite it every time. I've just got it there. It's copy-pasted everywhere.
Yep.
It's very, very useful.
Very, very true. Okay, all right, we're almost done with this section. The last thing that I want to point out is actually introducing others. That's a skill and I think something that can be helpful to your friends and your colleagues, your peers, but also to yourself because it shows that you care about those people. It shows that you care about the industry. You're building connections. If you kind of bring two people together and they end up having a strong relationship, that can be attributed to you. And I think that's just a nice thing to do. So a way that you can do that is literally be like, hey, Nick, I would love to introduce you to my friend Ella. You both have a really strong interest in building communities. And you can totally just destroy it like that. There we go. Okay. Are there any questions so far? Yeah?
Yeah, well, one thing I was kind of wondering is, like, those are the, like, in the industry, there are names that go around and people that you've heard of some people without actually having met them. So
Sure.
you can kind of know. So how would you kind of approach kind of like making an introduction to someone that you know their name and you know a bit about them already just because they're so prominent in the industry? Do you kind of like let on that you know what they're working on, you already know about them a bit, or do you kind of like go at it as if they were just someone else attending like whatever event you're at? Or...
Sure. I think there's probably a few ways to approach it. My initial way to approach it would be to treat them exactly like anyone else. If you are specifically interested in talking to them about something that they've done, be very graceful and say, excuse me, I'm really interested in talking to you about this. Do you have a moment? You can be very, very direct if that's really what you want to talk about. If you think, okay, this is someone that I would like to actually build a long-term relationship with rather than just ask them about how they did a specific thing in a game, then again, just approaching it from a very, very social point of view. If you can get yourself in a situation to talk to them about what's happening, and then as the conversation unfolds, you can, if you do already know what they do, it's perfectly fine just to mention that, because they will probably be used to that, so that's fine.
I think a nice way of framing it is people like compliments and don't like fan people. Yeah, because like if you say like a really genuine compliment and you got someone and obviously you know who they are, I found that it's really lovely. It's like, oh, I follow you online. I really like the work that you do. I really enjoyed this project that you worked on. My name is Ella. That's a really nice way to jump to the conversation. It shows that I'm familiar with their work and that I appreciate what they're doing, but I'm not devolving into, oh my god, like I cannot believe that you did that. I'm really excited about it. I'm a little bit nervous, and I've definitely seen that happen.
I would also say if you follow them on Twitter, and they tend to be more personal on Twitter, because I think we all are to an extent, mentioning that you follow them on Twitter and that you have seen the you really appreciate the stuff they've been putting out there is kind of nice because it's less like, oh my god, your game was so great, and more like, hey, I've enjoyed interacting with you as a person as opposed to your work. Yeah, it's much more personal.
Compliments, no fanning.
Absolutely. I'll give you one example that we'll kind of tie back to later about long-term relationships. When I was in Montreal last year, I was invited to this party, and there happened to be a lot of game devs there and quite a few very experienced game devs. And a friend of mine said, hey, you should come and meet this person. They didn't say who they were or what they did, but I started talking to them, and they mentioned that they were one of the producers for Far Cry 3. And I love that game. And I was like, wow, oh my god, I'm talking to the producer of Far Cry 3. This is crazy. But I thought back to all of the things that I've been taught about networking and my own experiences, and I went, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. So I asked them, they said they had kids, I asked them about their kids. I talked about the weather, I asked them how they knew the person who was hosting the party. The conversation kind of lulled, and then I said, it was really nice to meet you. And I left it there. No business cards, no anything about what they did. Less than 2 months later, I ran into them somewhere else, just totally happenstance. We had a short conversation, again, not trying to get anything from them or trying to fanboy or anything like that. Another month later, they happened to be looking for someone to do a small job, a freelance job. I messaged them, and because we'd already built up this trust and rapport without me having tried to get something from them or fanboy over them, they were so comfortable with me, and I ended up getting the work. So that stuff does happen. Just because you see someone once doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the time that you get that thing from them that you just really want. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else kind of on this topic before we move on? Yeah.
What do you do when you forget people's names?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've actually forgotten your name.
My name.
Just own up to it.
This always
Absolutely.
happens to me, and I have this habit that I picked up in retail, and sometimes it's great, but only 90% of the time, and the 10% of the time it goes badly, it goes real bad, so use this caution. And that is, I'm like, oh, it's so nice to see you, lovely. How you going, gorgeous? And I also understand that being a 5'3" little white girl means that, yeah, I'm going to get away with it a lot more than other people are. But I
How you doing, gorgeous?
You really don't respond to it. But I found that that's gotten me out of some real bad situations. But even if it's like, hey, how you going? Just avoid using their name. Sometimes you can get away with it. I'm not saying it's the best advice.
I have the problem that I stand out a lot, and everyone remembers my name. And I am not just bad with names, but also face blank. So I have gotten very good at acting like I remember the person.
Hey, what's your name?
Sorry, Doorboy, right?
Nice to see you.
This has gone way out of hand. I think to answer the question seriously,
Good question, gorgeous.
if you feel like it's actually incredibly rude to ask them for that moment, then I guess try and deflect it. If you can, that's really the case. Usually you can just say, I'm so sorry, I've actually forgotten your name.
I would also go and ask a trusted friend.
Ask a friend.
Because I actually
Yeah.
use
Be like,
use
excuse me a
Lexa for
moment.
this all the time, where I'll go over and be like, "We fucking start." As soon as I can, like the moment that conversation is done, and I'll cement it in for later. But
Anything but texting.
Yes.
Yes.
Question number.
If I might, I've also kind of found honesty is the best policy. Like, just before, it was actually with you, Jairus. I said, I was like, dude, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten your name again. But because I could remember the situations, it meant that I still remembered. Jairus, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I was kind of like, look, I'm super sorry, I forgot your name.
I made you a display for it.
Yeah, I guess that's okay as well.
So you can do what I
Yeah.
do, but like you
Came
can
across
also
well.
not.
Yeah. I was looking at Jairus. I was pointing to Jairus at the front. I don't forget Nick. Oh, but you will forget Jairus.
Yeah.
Oh. I'll just leave. I'll never forget your name again now, though.
I don't think anyone will forget Jairus. Anyway.
Hi, I'm Jairus. Yes. Okay. Hugs versus handshakes, knowing when to do one and not the other. It's a big thing. You'd be surprised how many people come to me and like going for a hug, and I'm just like, I don't know you. This is on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Don't hug, please. Not a big hugger. So body language, that's a massive thing in any scenario, whether you're at a conference or a party, at PAX, walking down the street. You can't just hug people from the street. It's weird. I've tried. So learning to read another person is a crucial skill. You should be reading a person before you even approach them, or while you're approaching them, maybe before you approach them. Just look at them, see if they want to be approached. You can usually tell if someone is sort of closed off, sitting at the corner. If they're looking at their phone, don't just go and like scoop them. You'll know.
There's a big difference between someone looking at their phone and someone awkwardly pretending to look at their phone, who would like someone to come and talk to them.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
pretty bad, though.
But you can tell if they're like, you can tell if they're looking around, sort of thing. Like, they might be nuts. Eye contact is a big thing. On the same note, reading someone during a conversation and knowing when to exit a conversation is another big thing. If you, especially when it comes to you, say you are with someone who's an established game developer, you're at GCAP, talks are coming up or whatever, and you can tell that there's like that awkward silence between sentences. You should know when to sort of be like, thanks, it's been really nice to meet you. I'm going to head over to the thing to grab some fruit. Something. I don't know. I eat a lot of fruit at GCAP. But yeah, so just knowing when to exit a conversation will benefit both you and the other person. Do we have any examples of how to exit a conversation, Ella?
Do we want to... I saw someone do this once, and I was floored by how good it was. Like, literally the most smooth exit to a conversation I've ever seen. I was so impressed. And it sort of happened after a conference when everybody was walking somewhere and there was a group of friends and a whole bunch of other people that weren't as close. And it can be awkward in those situations to know if you can go with people to things or if you should stay back. And it can be hard to suss out, and also people don't want to miss out on things. But if it's at a conference, sometimes people just kind of want to hang with their own people, and you should be aware of that too. And this person pretty much just turned around and looked at them and went, "It was really nice to meet you." And they knew to go away in a very polite way. But it was done so well because they're so charming. And it was just like, it was really nice to meet you, really enjoyed the conversation that we had. This conference was great. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here. And it was a very clear ending, but it was still very sweet and very polite. And that is like the best way I've ever seen to exit a conversation, is to thank someone for their time, but make it clear that it's done.
And that definitely leads into conversation etiquette. Just being polite goes a very, very long way. People will remember if you're rude. People will remember if you do things that make them very uncomfortable. It doesn't build relationships. It's the wrong way to go about these things. So yeah, be polite, especially when you're introducing introducing yourself to someone, and when you deem it necessary to exit a conversation. So I hear whispers. How do I enter an existing conversation between two people, you might ask? Hi, do you mind if I join in this conversation? It's that easy. I'm not even kidding.
Elite conversation hacks.
I have a really bad example, and I was talking to Jairus about this, but maybe don't do this, but it works for me. But like, if I see two people talking, I just sort of like slide in. Hey, how's it going? It seems that works for me.
I
Because
find it
you're
helps.
smiling warmly the whole time.
Yeah.
It's a certain amount of honesty and like
It's like, I want to be included. What do you want? But entering an existing conversation, that's a big one. Even if you know one of the people in the conversation already, be polite and ask if you can join in the conversation. You don't know what they're talking about. It might be a personal subject. It might be like them getting work. If they say, just give me a second, I'll be 2 seconds and then chat elsewhere. Like, just respect that.
Absolutely. Can I add on to that? If you literally hear that kind of conversation going on where someone is, I guess, pitching themselves to someone or something that seems quite business-oriented, if you kind of interrupt that, that could totally break an important business deal or an important relationship there, particularly if the person that's being talked to and that you want to talk to is someone like a publisher or someone that you feel probably has a lot of people pitching to them, that kind of thing. So that can be really bad for you if you interrupt that type of thing. But on the flip side, if you're in a conversation with someone and you see someone kind of really painfully, awkwardly standing there wanting to be part of the conversation, you can alleviate everything literally just by giving them a little bit of eye contact as you talk to the other person. And that will make them feel like they're already included. It will show the other person that, oh, okay, I guess this person's in a conversation. Obviously, if it's not comfortable to do that, don't do that. But if you can do that, that will make everyone else feel so much more comfortable about someone staying there, because there are always going to be people, and yourself, you're going to find it strange and uncomfortable to get into a conversation sometimes, even though you'd like to be there. So if you can alleviate that for someone else, I think that can go a long way.
It's also okay that if you are having a serious conversation and someone's desperately trying to get in, which does happen, it is okay to just turn to them and be like, please just give me a moment. Just do it politely and gently and be like, just give me a moment, like we'll be with you. It's okay to say that too if you need a bit of space.
Yeah, definitely. And that definitely leads into the next thing, which is intervening with friends. It really sucks that I have to say this, but you should be keeping an eye on your friends when there's alcohol at a party. It's pretty common sense now, but yeah. So keeping an eye on your friends. Together networking is essentially being in the same room as other people that you know. You can be in two separate conversations, but be within sort of earshot. Eye vision. If you sense the friend is uncomfortable, it's more than okay to take them away privately. Just say, hey, could I grab you for a minute? That's okay, and both parties should understand that. But in the off chance that that isn't something that you think would be okay, or you think the other person might be a bit more uncomfortable with a third party coming in and taking their conversation partner away, signals between friends is a massive thing. Before an event, you can agree upon a signal between two people, I guess, or more. And yeah, that could be the signal to, hey, get me out of this situation.
I think a lot of people already have that, and it's pretty well established with friends, but I know that like I have one with especially people that may be in uncomfortable situations where there's alcohol. So something really simple that doesn't look awkward, like don't make it weird. So I know that the one that we use is just the smoking, like none of us really smoke, but if you make eye contact with someone and you do this, everyone understands that you're going to leave the conversation because you're going for a smoke. So like socially, sure, somebody might think I'm smoke now, but at the same time, it's socially acceptable. It's a really easy way to leave because it's clear, like you're going to go outside to smoke. You're not going to smoke in a bar. You're not going to smoke in the middle of the conference floor, and you can just like wander out with that person, and it's really organic, really natural. Feel free to use that one.
Can I
You know, it's like everyone's doing this and you go outside, it's like no one's
Can I come back to body language for a second, particularly mentioning parties and alcohol? So I'm sure that every single person in this room has been in this situation where you're at a bar or you're at a party or something and you don't have a drink and you're like, what the heck do I do with my hands? And particularly if you're in a conversation and it's not a particularly exciting conversation, or it's with someone that you find hard to engage with or be excited by, you just don't know what to do with your hands. Having an alcoholic drink in your hand instantly makes you more comfortable, but you don't always want to drink. Alcohol can be expensive as well. So I recommend anytime you think you might be in an uncomfortable situation with your hands, then literally just get a glass of water, or buy like a $4.50 glass of Coke. Because no one can tell.
Just sip on it through the night.
Totally, you can hold it. People don't know if it's alcohol or not as well.
You can also finish it and be like, I've got to get another one. Conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also a good option. I think it's also worth noting that with things like this, when it comes to like sussing out body language, people get it wrong.
Handshakes? Yeah. Not really. Okay. This is like a really obvious thing, I feel like, but you kind of forget, particularly when you meet someone for the first time, be really confident with your handshake. Like, actively think, how am I going to shake this person's hand? And put your hand out with confidence and give them a bit of strength and just shake their hand confidently.
There's nothing worse
Like-
than like a, oh no, I hate a bad handshake. Whoa. Really gross. Sometimes a bad handshake, I'm like, this conversation's probably going to be bad. Like, you've got to meet the webbing. The web has to touch.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There is
Yeah.
such thing as a two-ego handshake.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
you guys need a
someone
second
grabs you
hand.
and grabs your arm.
Oh god.
Oh.
That's too many points of contact.
That's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Webbing, no shoulders. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Wipe your hand first too. Wipe your hand. Yeah. Yeah, good.
aggressive and brings them close
Yeah.
and stuff. It's
Eye
really
contact.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. And if you do get clammy hands like me, just doing a cheeky wipe. And then you go for the
like reaction to
But not
bad
obviously. They don't hold that hand and go,
Like this stuff.
Especially if you're wearing if you've got like a drink or something, because everyone knows the whole condensation thing. Like just one hand will be
another reason to carry a drink.
Also, shaking hands is a good way to exit a conversation. Because it shows that you've met someone. Like, people get that social cue. Like, if you talk for a while, then you're like, oh, cool, yeah, thanks.
Do we have any questions on this? Hi.
Just on the idea of just feeling sweaty sometimes and stuff like that. It's a little upsetting, but still relevant. Especially I thought about it in the last IGDA. It was hot as hell in there. And I'm a big dude that gets pretty warm pretty quick. Like, how do you deal with feeling kind of gross and sweaty in general, and you know that you are, but you're like, do you have any any tips for for not coming off super gross, even though you know, hey, I'm just sweating. It's just human. Yeah.
If you keep paying attention, we've got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Just get like clinical strength deodorant, seriously.
Yeah.
Roll on.
On your
don't go,
forehead, though?
spray.
Right, no, the Rexona 24-hour
Yeah.
clinical strength. I mean, it's like $20 a thing, but ooh,
It's my forehead.
just spray the
Yeah, and it's still over the eyes.
Is there any other questions before we move on?
I'm going to pretend one then, which is not really about this. I was going to say, it's my fault for sitting here, and I apologize to you
Yeah,
guys.
sorry, you're really cold.
AC is really cold.
Sorry. I was going to warn people not to sit in that row or the one. You told it.
Yeah,
everyone
it's
to
in
sit in
every
that row.
First floor as well.
I thought you not those two.
Yeah.
I respect it. I'm actually pretty warm.
People in the back who are not really get needed,
It's
if there does
fine.
get hot, I'm like,
One question.
Nick's favorite.
Oh, yes.
Yes. How do you deal with people who are sort of hanging around you and you've politely told them that you don't want to have the conversation with, but they're still following you around anyway?
You go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
They can't follow you there.
That's sure what is there.
They'll wait for you.
Yeah, that's
And then come back out. Hey, I haven't
Yeah.
had sex with me.
That's
Nice person,
weird.
that's
Yeah.
It happens at IGDA every
Yeah, I'm not
month.
surprised to hear that.
Every single
Really?
month.
I really
I'm so sorry, Nick.
It is you.
Even though it's going to be uncomfortable to let them know that you don't want to hang out, I think they would much prefer to hear that than pretend you like them.
After a certain point, I was like, hey, I kind of want to do my own thing. Is it okay?
Yeah, right.
It took a while to really build up the
At
confidence.
the IGDA, I've literally said, hey, I've got some other friends that I haven't said hi to yet. I'm going to go and say hi.
Except that
That's
you
good.
I have,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, I probably
It's
didn't
about
hang
being
around too
kind.
much. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go find
You
some
do
new
that.
people.
You talk to me, Jared.
All right. Does that answer your question?
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, well,
Just be
there's
like,
different ways of how to deal with it, so it's just a matter of finding something that I'm comfortable with.
I always would engage them and then disengage. And that's usually enough of a sign to be like,
It, also, this isn't, being kind and being upfront is lovely. It doesn't happen to me very often, but when it does, I find that another way that you could try first, if you really don't want to enter into something that could potentially be confrontational, likely won't be, but there is the potential for it, is I will ignore someone and then I will make sure to go to the other side of the conference, and that's a pretty clear indicator that you're getting away.
it's a big conference.
But if that and if that doesn't work, you can approach someone. It can be as simple as, it's been really lovely to meet you. I have some things I need to take care of.
Do you have tips for if that doesn't work? Like, what if someone's being like super creepers always?
Yeah,
Like,
tell them that
Make a
we
plan
no,
B.
I mean, yes, that is there will always be people, volunteers, security.
yeah, okay.
My
So just
favourite thing
go
to
through
do
some of
before that, though, and this has happened to me, is I think that this language really helps put it into perspective for people, because I think that people are becoming more and more aware of how they're coming off and don't want to make people feel unsafe. So I'll just be like, look, I'm really sorry, you're making me a little bit uncomfortable, and I just need a little bit of space. And as soon as you use the word and you can say it kindly, but as soon as you use the word uncomfortable, people don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, especially in a professional setting.
Yep.
So they will leave you alone. And if that doesn't work in security,
You
like,
can
use
just
your
come
friends
get
as
me.
well.
If anyone's at a conference and they're uncomfortable, just come get me. No, I'm not even joking.
Things like, I'll sort them out.
I'm not talking.
You can always have someone else like take them. So it's
Or do
like,
one of these
hey,
ones
you
with
might
your
take
friends.
them.
Like,
Or take the
need to get out
conversation
of
away
this.
from you.
Yeah, I think seeking help from someone else if all those other things don't work is the next step.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah. And can I just add something? I've had a lot of experiences with the weird person, right? And they won't actually learn from they're not really socialized in particularly in games. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we've got people.
Jared's not at you, mate.
Oh, we've got people who live behind their computers, right? A lot. We've got people who sometimes are autism spectrum or have Asperger's, which can be it can kind of put up a shield where they just don't see the things and they don't read immediately what you're saying. So giving them a clear plan of action, like I'm going to the bathroom and then I'm going to move around a little bit. It was nice to see you. Hopefully I'll see you at the next one. And if they don't get that, then there's a pretty good chance that there's someone who might have communication difficulties and then just say, sorry, I tried giving you a bit of a hint, but you didn't pick up on it. But I don't want to spend the rest of the night with you. And that's fine. And they're not going to, like, if you're talking to, like, I don't know, Tim fucking Sweeney, right? You're not going to say that to Tim Sweeney, right? Or if you're talking to someone who's famous, you might not say that. Or if you're talking to someone who's a firing manager. People usually who can't pick up on this, they're usually outsiders, industry outsiders, people who had difficulty getting a job, people who are desperate, right? So don't feel too scared about upsetting them for the moment. And just say, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Like, if you don't want to make me uncomfortable, do say that. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. But then just, like, back out and get out of it. And be fine burning that as a bridge and burning that as a relationship. Because, like, it's not that important anyway, right?
Chances are if they haven't picked up on the cues, then not upsetting them, but being direct to them isn't going to make them upset.
No, exactly. And it's not like they're very unlikely to be a person in a position of power to be like, you're out of the industry now. Get out.
They might try that.
They might try
that.
Yeah, what we said today.
There's something I'd like to add to that, and I think that is a really effective technique for you, and I think for most people it would be. It's a little bit different when you're a woman or you're female presenting, because that's a lot scarier situation to be in. If I'm at a bar and I'm not very big and someone won't leave me alone, that can escalate in a way that I might not be equipped to deal with. And sure, it doesn't happen very often, but that doesn't really matter. It could still happen, and I think that's something that women also socialise to be more afraid of. And it's also one of those things that it's not so bad in a conference when there are people around, but especially at events where alcohol is involved, having that conversation can be quite a bit scarier. Which I think, I'm sorry to bring it up, but I think it's something to be aware of. And if you are feeling uncomfortable in that way, finding someone else.
Go get Nick.
Yeah, I think like burning bridges is a good point to bring up though, because those people aren't probably going to be that important in your career, fingers crossed. But if you are in a situation with alcohol, just be safe.
Yeah, I'd like to bring that back to Nick's point about keeping track of your friends. If you are there with a female friend and you see something like this happening, it is a lot easier to kind of dissolve the situation by just stepping in between. As if they don't have that direct content, the intimidation factor can be lost, and you can help them out. Yeah.
I may also add that like they may just be like really lonely, and I know it's not your job to really like be that friend or whatever, and you don't want to be made uncomfortable. This isn't a drinking situation. This is for professional situations. Just like having some compassion with it as well, because they may just want to hang out.
are all really good things to talk about. Thanks everyone for participating. I
real
feel
quick,
much more
sorry.
wholesome.
I'm still getting everyone.
Totally
Still-
It stops us and you realize, like, I'm trying to give hints, but
Sorry.
You got a jacket.
I have a jacket. I feel bad for the people that I said, hey, shall we sit here?
If it's okay, then we'll move to the next slide. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can talk about this afterwards as well.
Yeah,
We
this-
want to talk about more like techniques and like ways to get out of situations.
There's so much cool stuff to talk about.
We do. And this is one of the coolest things ever.
It is.
And it will help you so much with networking. Volunteering! Yay! Great. Cool. All right. So I'm sure some of you and all of us have spent a lot of time volunteering at different events. You just get to be part of the community. You get to see it. You meet people. You get the smells of it.
Does not smell good.
Particularly, coming from being a student or a junior, it gives you access to the industry and gives you actual experience in the industry before you have an industry job. Sorry?
What about volunteering?
Harris. Who here has already volunteered and stuff?
You volunteer for this. Does that count?
You're both volunteering. Yeah, it's nice.
Still
Cool.
included.
It's a very, very powerful thing, and you'll notice probably a lot of the people, particularly in the indie game scene, that you think are doing well, have probably done some form of volunteering. So start, if you haven't thought about it before, if you haven't ever considered it, start thinking about it now. One of the reasons that it's very, very powerful for networking and for conferences is because it actually gives you a reason to talk to people. So if you're going to a conference and you don't know anyone else there, if you're kind of seen as a staff member, people are going to talk to you. It opens up this kind of dialogue. It doesn't make you weird for talking to random people because you can give them directions. You start to get to know what's actually happening. So when you're not on duty, when you're kind of just enjoying the event because you usually get given a free pass to the event as well. That's a whole other benefit. But then you have more things that you can talk about and you feel more comfortable, like it's your space that you're in now. This is your part of running this event. So you instantly feel more comfortable. And then networking is, you're going to probably find it a little bit easier.
It also sounds really good on your resume.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
also for conferences you can't afford to go to, like GCAP's expensive. You
There's actually-
volunteer, free pass.
There's actually a lot of volunteering opportunities still open for Games Week.
Yeah,
Check
Unite
it
I
out.
know is looking for
Yep. Well,
staff.
when we have a list of events that kind of happen throughout the year, so we'll point out which ones
For sure.
kind of have volunteering. Professional references. You'll actually make friends with the volunteers. So even if you're going, okay, I want to go to this conference because I want to meet this person that made this game, or I want to learn about this thing, the relationships that are actually going to be the most important are the people that you work with as volunteers. Some of my closest friends from around the place have been people that I volunteered with. Some of that has turned into working relationships, some of it hasn't. But it kind of forces this relationship or these relationships on you. Just like when you're at university or at work, you end up inevitably having bonds. I guess not always. But usually end up having bonds with the people that you're forced to work with. Over time that just happens, and volunteering usually happens in a very condensed period, so those can form really, really quickly. Again, you can attend the rest of the event for free. You start to build trust with the community as well, particularly if you consistently volunteer for a lot of events. People are going to start recognizing your face, recognizing your name. Once you kind of start to be known from all the different organizers, you'll find that a lot of them kind of tend to be the same people or are all friends with each other. So you just start to become someone that is a little bit known around the industry, and you have a little bit of trust and credibility to your name in social and networking situations. Just attending events, not being a volunteer, just going, I'm going to buy a ticket and go to this, whether it's GCAP or PAX or Unite or Free Play, all of the events.
GDAU events.
It demonstrates your seriousness to the industry as well. I'm assuming all of you are here because you are really interested in being dedicated to a career in games. And showing that you're serious about it and that you're dedicated and that you're passionate about it will just go so far for the networks that you build, because they will see that consistency. They will see how much you care.
People hire people that they trust.
Absolutely.
I can also say from seeing hundreds of game students come through, that the ones that are really going to make any impact are the ones that I always just bump into in an event, right? They're the ones that have that passion and want to move forward that is required to kind of survive. It's a creative industry. There is networking and there is your ability to create stuff, and you kind of need both.
And we are a community. We support each other.
We do, and showing that support for others by attending their events reflects really positively on you. Again, it gives you another excuse to go to an event, being like, I want to go to this. Maybe I'm not super interested in it, but I'm showing support for someone that I care about or that I want to build a relationship with. Maybe they'll be able to turn around and support you at the same time. But mentioning communities, online communities is a huge thing. I'm going to pass that over to Nick. He's a bit more of an expert
Yes.
than me, so take it away. I would say so.
I made a random Discord and pull up.
You made a lot of spreadsheets too as well. I think they're very good.
So many
Hate
spreadsheets.
spreadsheets.
Fucking love spreadsheets. Sorry. Am I allowed to swear?
No.
Just
How
the
do you just do it?
I literally swear every class. It's fine.
Okay, awesome. I love spreadsheets.
Actually, was there any questions about volunteering before
Yeah.
you move on? About how to volunteer?
It's a big thing.
Or, yep.
I do have one question. I just wanted to know, because I know you talked about like the networking and all that kind of stuff. What's the ratio of, because I hear that like if you're a volunteer, you're not just a volunteer for the whole event, you get some free time to actually move around.
Well, it's different for every event.
Yeah. for sure.
Okay.
I know GCAP
Is there like usually an average? Or like if you had to average it out, would you say you get
GCAP
like...
is normally like 30% volunteer, 70%.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh wow.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
It's not as
Pretty
much
awesome.
as many hours as you're expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At the most, it would be half the event.
So we have a
Yeah.
question.
Oh,
Good
nice.
question. Whenever I volunteer for an event, I've noticed that I've gotten reality out of it if I've got
Yeah.
a ticket for the event.
Definitely. And also, if you're volunteering, one really big benefit isn't just having a reason to be there, it's getting to meet all the speakers that you may not have had a reason to talk to before, and they're going to definitely give you the time of day a lot more than if you're just, even sometimes an attendee. So it's a really nice way to make those sorts of connections as well with people that are higher up in the industry.
Yeah.
See how
I
things
remember-
work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It happened to me last year. I was just, before the event had even started, I was just organising some stuff, and some really established dev came up and started chatting. I didn't know who they were. I haven't played the game for anything. But like, they were famous. Like,
They were
Question over
famous.
Chris?
Yeah, just one thing with volunteering, I know a lot of volunteer positions also ask for like, previous volunteer experience. So it's kind of that thing where, you need a job to get experience, but in order to get experience, you need a
You
job.
can definitely apply for
You do a lot of
volunteering
volunteering
positions
stuff, right?
without...
Yeah, I was kind of asking the general thing.
Look, if you've worked a job, you can volunteer.
Yeah.
Like it shows that you know how to talk to people and you have work ethic.
it's worth noting that a lot of the volunteer applications will never say like, "Hey, how much volunteering have you done?" They ask more questions than that. One of the crucial ones for GCAP is like, what are you going to get out of it?
Mhm.
Why do you want to be there?
I think one of the specific things they don't look for is that you've done volunteering a lot, because that's very clearly not fair, because how else are you going to get into it? It's not a crucial...
Yeah, it's not like a job. It's not like they're looking
Yeah.
for skilled volunteers. Come give.
I mean, don't be hopeless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
All they want to know is that, do you have a little bit of experience in something slightly relevant?
It's also about what they can give you, and they're also
Sure.
consciously looking for people that they can benefit. So when you're volunteering, if you're going to benefit from it, you've got a very good chance of getting it, even if someone else has more experience, if you'll get more benefit.
I know GCAP volunteers ask for students because they think it'll be beneficial for
Yeah.
them.
Totally. And if there aren't, say, events coming up and there's nothing specifically listed about volunteers, be really proactive in just emailing organisers saying, hey, I'm really excited about this event. I'm studying this, or I'm really interested in getting into this. I'd love to volunteer to help you make a great event. A lot of the volunteering that I've done has been from me asking for it. There hasn't been any proper volunteer thing, or they've said, cool, yeah, we would love you. Here's the application form, or we're sending it out next week or wherever. So it's very okay to contact organisers asking to volunteer.
Well, especially because you want a passionate volunteer. You don't want one that just
Absolutely.
kind of sits listlessly at the side.
Yeah.
I don't know, half an hour.
So yeah, online communities. So I'm just going to sort of use the GDAU as an example. So the GDAU is a Discord called the Game Developers of Australia. We have over 500 members now, which is very exciting. Actually, you might remember a screenshot. It's like a big thing.
You've missed your chance.
Everything that we do there, like we do a lot of things, and we have volunteers. So online communities are very helpful in that they help build your network quite quickly, simply by being social online. Something as simple as like liking a tweet or responding to someone on Discord.
Like my tweets.
I want to follow this. No, but like something as simple as and casual as Discord, right? You just have a conversation.
Also, if you're feeling more awkward in person or you haven't built up those social skills yet, do it online.
Yeah, you can have like a cat as your picture.
You can also think about what you're going to say. You don't have to be there face to face like a tennis match. Like, oh, what am I going to say next? Like, you've got. Okay, it was a bad analogy, but you've got like a screen and you've got a keyboard, and you can take some time to think about what you want to say and what has value if you say it in this context.
Yeah, and that will naturally lead to connections in real life. If you happen to go to an event that person is also attending, you can meet up and be like, hey, I'm Nick from online. I'm Nick from Twitter. Does anyone remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, it's such a big thing.
And it's okay if you get it wrong. Like, be open to what happens when that happens and apologise to people. And especially when we're at parties where alcohol are involved, sometimes you might go for a hug when it may not have been appropriate. And it's okay to apologise to someone after and to make amends. And it's also okay. I've never gone before, and I was like, cool, America, lots of really scary new things. I only have a few meetings with publishers, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my time. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and I'd met a few people, I guess, on Twitter. We followed each other, so I sent so many private messages being like, hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco. Can I buy you a coffee? Yep. I think, actually, every single person that I messaged, I met up with for coffee. And they were all people that I really admired the work of, that I'd been speaking to for a while, but I was genuinely very excited to meet. And no one turned me down because they were, one, flattered, two, people want to network and make new friends and meet more people in the industry, especially when you're going to events. Like, we are going to events to do this. So it's not inappropriate to do things like that. You can absolutely contact people and ask to meet up, and what they say no, and you can be like, that's totally fine, I just thought I'd ask, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you've already seen most likely Nick doing that as a good example on Twitter, posting all of the events that they will be attending in order to try and get that. And I know I've had a similar thing.
In the corner saying, if you want to meet for coffee, just message me.
Yeah, just
That's
message.
like on the internet for anyone to see.
Yeah.
Just message me. Does anyone here like coffee?
No.
Did people just say no?
Yeah. I mean, I drink 6 coffees a day anyway, so that's fine. It's not how much money I spend on coffee.
Nick, can you talk about some existing online communities for indie game devs that aren't just necessarily forums, but like Screenshot Saturday or other communities that you know about to be involved?
GDAU, Melbourne.
Yeah.
There's a few that I would avoid. That's a big thing. Certain ones that you should avoid. Like there's like a whole like bunch of them, like indie game promo. All those ones, they're just full of not nice.
If you're good at Reddit, I would get on Reddit. If you're bad at Reddit, don't do it.
Do we have an example from Reddit?
From Reddit?
Yeah.
What?
Your Hearthstone. That took off pretty well, right?
Yeah, well, I made some like Hearthstone fan cards a while back, and I think I got like 1.6k upvotes. So some people, I think someone actually messaged me, and they had like a website where they kind of have Hearthstone content on it. And I was like, oh, would you like, we show your stuff, then we'll give you some money for it. But I was like literally 12 when that happened.
I was going to say, I saw this on Reddit like X many years ago.
Yeah, so
and then one day Nick's like, hey, have you seen this? Chris made it. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that's how you get hired by Blizzard. Like that's what you do. You get hired by Blizzard.
Would be noticed. Just on Reddit quickly, I've gone viral front page on Reddit twice. Once was good, and once was very bad. So if you're not confident in your abilities on Reddit and your know-how, don't do it. Just it can be really good. It's a really good way to build audiences for certain games if you're respected within the right community boards. Very useful tool, but also, it's kind of just like a step up from 4chan, so keep that in mind.
My first post on Reddit was that Pokeball scene, and that went viral, and I wasn't prepared. Because
Yeah.
I'd never been on
amazing.
Reddit before, and I was like, what is this shit?
I like Reddit, but Reddit doesn't always like me.
Oh,
That's
damn.
okay.
Like, people stealing my crap. I was so upset.
I would
Yeah.
stick, maybe to start with, stick with Facebook and Twitter and my Discord.
How do we get access to that Discord if people would like to do
I
that?
have business cards here with a link. But also I can, you can follow us on Twitter actually, GDAU_. Jerry.
God damn it.
Yes,
Well,
Chris.
kind of just on the Reddit point, I think there are a lot of great like gaming related subreddits.
Yeah, there are
and
some
the best
really
part
good
I think
ones.
about it is that some of them can be very specialized. So if you're only really interested, like there's some that's all about news related to gaming, and there's some that's all about like game design. So people are asking questions like, oh, how do I design this kind of thing? And there's always like a decent amount of people chipping in. And because it's all anonymous, I think it's great. If, I mean, anonymity is good and bad, but like for some things it can be good if you're not comfortable having your face up. Because like Twitter is very personal.
And the very specific threads, and I don't really go on Reddit, but like they're all very important. I think I know the person that started like the game production one, and that's taken off really well.
I was just going to say, like, on the topic of specific subreddits, I've spoken to like Blizzard employees, Riot employees, and had conversations with them just over Reddit because there's social media people who communicate and talk to their not clients, what's the word? Their fans, customers. Yeah, and I've spoken to people who work at Riot and Blizzard, and like I've had conversations about game design or certain aspects of their games.
Yes, for sure.
So it's an option.
I know that this is not related to this slide, but one thing I really want to reiterate is that we're all people. Like we'll get to that I think later, but people that work for all the big companies, I don't know about mine.
Expand on that later.
But like everyone is like, they're all people. They all actually that's one thing. This is really gross. I'm sorry, but like someone once told me, just remember that everyone poops. Like it's the truth. It helped me remember that this person is just a human that does cool things, but they're human. We should move on.
Yes.
Slightly. To answer your question, Jeff. So Facebook and Twitter and Discord are definitely the main sort of areas for us. Discord you can access via the link, depending on which community you want to join. Twitter, just be yourself, follow a bunch of people. You will naturally get followers back from that. Facebook, a lot of the groups you need to be approved, so you just search them. Mainly the IGDAU, which I assume everyone's part of, the International Game Developers. Yeah.
There's also a Facebook group, I think it's called something like Game Developers Looking for Work or...
For game developers, Australia.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of jobs that are posted
For sure.
in there, so there's us.
Just like a question about Facebook and Twitter. Like with Twitter, you follow everyone. It's like when is it kind of appropriate to ask someone to add them on Facebook? Because that's a much more personal.
We get to that, don't worry.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
We get there. Don't worry, we get there. Talk about this.
All right. So actively showing support. That is a big thing. Giving is way more powerful than getting. Again, it builds trust. People will remember you. Friendship, respect, they're all gained from that. It boosts the entire industry, which will help you in the long run. A wise person once told me, rising tides lift all boats. Thank you, Chris. He invented it. It's important. It's really important. And one of the other things is when it comes to community involvement, whether that be chatting to people online or volunteering, having some long-term goals, going into those situations with long-term goals, that's really important. What do you want to get out of it? What do you want to achieve in life? Yeah.
What sort of interpersonal relationships do you want to have with people?
Yep. Next.
Yeah.
Yes, events. All right.
A little.
So, the difference between parties, conferences, and meetups, and trade shows, which isn't there, but it should be.
Yeah.
So, parties are casual, alcohol sometimes, but not always. People are a bit more relaxed. Work comes second. conferences, it's more about networking and learning. That is probably the most formal of all of them. So yeah, be professional in that situation. You should be professional sort of everywhere when it comes to industry meetups, but definitely at conferences the most. Meetups are casual networking, so it's sort of the in-between. So it's fostering existing relationships and catching up with people from online or just your friends. So an example of that would be like the GDAU meetups every month. There's an Unreal meetup every month. I think they're starting to do Unity meetups every month. There's GDAU meetups every month. Yeah. And trade shows like PAX. That's like...
Go play games.
Yeah, go play games.
Don't network at PAX.
Yeah.
Really, especially if people have been networking like the entire week at GCAP and all those parties, and then they get to PAX and they're completely pooped. And then, like, you know, you're exhibiting a game and you're trying to, like, from personal experience, sorry, I get a little bit bitter. I'm really trying to, like, you know, track down media and, like, get interviews and get people playing the game and get people through as quickly as possible. And there's someone here who's trying to network with me and I'm like, it's really not the time. Like, I've got so many things that I'm trying to do and so many things that I'm trying to accomplish at this trade show. So, yes, like, if, you know, a developer from a game you really like or a studio you want to work with is there, and they're not busy, ask if you can talk about it. But don't just hover around and try to talk to them when they're really working.
Read the body language.
Yeah.
Take their business card and then tweet at them.
Yeah, tweet at them. That's always flattering.
Yeah.
Or DM.
And in those situations, in those kind of events, again, like change your thinking to being about friendships, because particularly at something like PAX, even though not everyone is a game developer there, it's, you know, a very public thing. Everyone's passionate about games and about media and stuff around games. So the more friends you make, whether you're standing in line and you start talking to someone, or it's like you happen to play a game with them, or you're at a talk and you want to, I don't know, just meet someone. It's okay to make friends with people that you're like, oh, I don't know what they're doing, or how could they ever possibly help me? You'd be really surprised where different friends kind of in your life that are passionate about games will, you know, they'll all elevate you and all build your network around the games industry because they will have friends that are perhaps developers. So it's worth really focusing more on just standard friendships at PAX, I think, and just being very open and talking to anyone.
Before we move on to more specific events that happen throughout the year, it's just some pretty nice little short advice, which is, so first of all, don't get too drunk. Making a fool of yourself in a professional setting doesn't look good at all. There's still people that have not fond memories of people making a fool of themselves at events like this. Having a core group is pretty important, and this is also where having a sign to help you get out of a risky or an uncomfortable situation also pays off really well. And lastly, flying solo has its own value. I'm not saying like go do something super dangerous and risky, but you know, separating yourself a little bit from the people you're most comfortable with and the people that are in your circuit already. You're not gonna make new friends by talking to existing friends. Like that just doesn't make sense, right? So sort of just step to the side, sort of maybe outside of the room, outside of the conference, and just meet some new people. Flying solo has its benefits. All right. So, events. This is by no means a comprehensive list of everything that happens in the whole world, because the world is big. But this is some of the major stuff throughout Australia and I guess America and New Zealand. So I put GDAU up the top, but we'll get there. So Games Week, that's probably the next big thing. I don't imagine there's anything else in the next sort of week and a half that's going to sneak up on us. But Games Week consists of GCAP for 2 days, Unite for 1 day, PAX for 3 days. And there's a bunch of other things sort of within that, including free play, the annual games lunch.
So much.
There's so much stuff.
My calendar's already full for every single day.
There's a lot of free stuff as well. So if you're kind of like, oh, I'm not ready to fully like jump into conferences, go into the Melbourne International Games Week website and you'll be able to see lots of different things happening during the daytime, during the evening as well. And during that time, Acme is always a really good place to go to anyway, but I think during Games Week they have a few events around there. So if you're kind of interested, it's a good place to start really soon.
There's also a lot of smaller events if you're worried about those large situations, like things like that ice cream social that came up, where you've got not just a networking situation,
Also,
but
no
you can always
alcohol.
look down at the ice cream if you're having trouble and continue. There's just those smaller events might make you feel a bit more comfortable to start with.
Yes.
With the Melbourne Games Week, there were like categories like industry and public.
Yep.
So which ones do we mostly look at then?
Industry, if you can. So industry is GCAP, and public is PAX, as like a very broad sort of definition. So something like trade show is definitely public focused, and GCAP is industry focused because it's all about upskilling and networking. So it's not just networking; it's also about upskilling and like learning, things like that. And there are obviously like other events on as well throughout. Like Unite is industry focused as well. Free play is both mostly public, but like everyone from the industry goes. Yeah. So that's kind of like the difference. So when you're looking on the website in particular, that's sort of the differentiation that they're making.
So Games Week is definitely the busiest week for us in Australia, for the games industry in Australia. Some of the other events include GDC over in America. That's probably the biggest games conference in the world.
That's good fun.
Yeah, and then there's New Zealand GDC, which happens a little bit after regular GDC.
No,
Like
it was only like surely New Zealand GDC
It was like August.
only like like a month or so ago.
When's normal GDC?
March.
Smaller.
I don't.
Different seasons.
They're all months, right? They're all in the same.
It's all time.
With those kinds of events, there's also Gamescom in Europe,
Yes.
and there's Tokyo Game Show.
Yep.
I just happen to know a
And
lot of people
E3
that love
now.
Japan. So if you love Japan, go to Tokyo Game Show. I think they actually have a whole week for games industry stuff as well.
You also
Yeah.
well with Tokyo Game Show, like sorry, is it very like this is Japan? Is it very English? I guess it's like
No.
friendly.
Japan itself is not English friendly.
You get very
And
good at miming.
Yeah.
Tokyo Game Show is definitely not English friendly as well. However, it's awesome. But so if you ever want to exhibit there, you do need native speakers. You cannot exhibit there if you only speak English. Like it's just a joke.
I think the European events are much better.
But if you speak Japanese yourself, or it's actually quite easy to get volunteers for Tokyo Game Show if your game is already launched. That's definitely an option as well. You can have people work on the booth for you that you put out like a call to your community. So that's also a very valid option for Tokyo Game Show. But you can meet a lot of developers and publishers from Japan at GDC. So if you're looking for a Japanese publisher or you want to meet Japanese developers and you don't want to exhibit something, GDC is probably better than Tokyo Game Show because a lot of those key executives do go to GDC.
Yeah. All of these things, or not all of them, but a lot of them are quite expensive, and that's a very big thing when you're first starting out in the industry. I know I can't afford to go to GDC. Very expensive.
That's why you apply for the Victoria grants.
Yes.
And volunteer.
Seriously,
Seriously,
yes.
I volunteered at GDC this year, and that it only saved me a couple of $100 really, but it was enough to kind of get me over the line to be able to afford to go overseas to do that. And again, volunteering was an excuse to talk to people. Like while I was volunteering, I met one of the coordinators of Gamescom. I met Jen McLean, who was the head of the IGDA. So yeah, so to help you kind of get across the line to go to these events, volunteering will help a lot. One we haven't talked about yet is Global Game Jam. Has anyone participated in Global Game Jam before? Yes, awesome. Well, then you probably already know what a fantastic event that is for networking. Any game jams that come up though, it's an excuse for you to get together with some random people or with people that you know and get creative and do something. Even if it's with people that you know, if you can try to get someone involved that you don't know, like if it's a friend, then that's working with someone in those close quarters, like that's going to build your relationship really quickly. You can showcase your skills to other developers. It's not very often that you really get to do that unless you're shoving a video in someone's face or something like that. You really get to show how you are good to work with. Also, there's volunteering opportunities there. Yeah, question?
Yeah, for Game Jam, I guess like you said, like the two kind of things you can do, people that you already know, or like try and go there and try and make a team there. Like you maybe list some of the pros and cons of going with either approach. Or something like.
I've definitely seen people go there and I guess fail to form a team like cohesively, or fail to find people that they work with, that they could work with well. But generally, they seem to, at least the people that from this year that I met, that kind of had some issues with that.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah, and they seemed like they didn't have a very good attitude for it in the beginning. I think if you have to go in, if you do that, you have to be very open-minded. So that I guess the pros would be you could come out with an experience and relationships that you never thought that you would have. But the cons are that you have to work a little bit harder to get there and be a little bit more open-minded and maybe get on board with something that you wouldn't have initially thought that you'd like to do, and let yourself do that.
I think a little bit of a mix helps. Like I've attended 6 global game jams now, and every time I go there, I go with some of my core team, but not the whole core team. And then we usually try to bring on 1 or 2 people we've never worked with before. So that way you've got like, if you do get into that situation where you kind of end up working up on a game that you're like, yeah, this is probably not what I wanted to make, you're still able to work cohesively as a group enough to turn it into something that you can all be really happy with.
Does
48
run a mixer beforehand, like a week ahead?
No, I think it's just
the
you get on-
Ignomate.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Giselle does it.
I know Gunpack does it every year, but that's a hackathon, which is similar but different.
Yeah, Giselle has a little party.
Giselle's the organizer for the meetups and the
Yeah. So you go and then you have wristbands that identify what you do by colour. It's very cute.
And you can use online communities as well to organise that.
Yeah, they have a big old Global Game Jam Facebook page. That's actually how I met my team. I was in another state at the time of the mix-up thingamajiggy, so I had to go through.
I aggressively chose people because I chose him.
I was like, Jared, you want it? And then
I'm like,
he's
I'm taken, I can't.
That's fine.
I was in.
Another question.
Oh no, I just wanted to add another thing with the Global Game Jam. I've only been to one, like the one this year, but I know what they did was that at some point they said, oh, anyone who hasn't got a team yet, come to the atrium. So everyone who didn't have, and that's how I found my team, because I just went to that and found some people I wanted to work with, and then we made something. So
yeah, awesome.
I think we need to start getting on though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Global Jam gets fun. Speaking. It's good.
Fanny's not back and it's personal.
You'll have to excuse me. I have hyperlight sensitivity in my left eye, and I looked into the projector. So I am. Oh look, I've got no notes because I'm a bad bitch. Thank you. So, are you ready for the most hypocritical part of this talk?
Yeah.
I'm very sick, and yet I came to work and attended this talk at the same time. Be careful of yourself during a conference. It's a long-term situation and you need to monitor things. You need to know your limits. I know that I have a weekend free, which I can spend lying on the couch. So I have set myself up perfectly for burning myself out tonight. So I know my limits in this particular situation. You need to make sure that you keep hydrated, that you have food. And when I say food, I don't mean burgers for the whole week. Because if you continue, yes, please go on.
Who texted me half an hour before this and said, bring me V?
Look, I know my
Bring me
limits.
Gatorade, bring me a pastry, bring me pancake mix.
I can bring you a pancake mix for tomorrow morning and you've already at the shops. So,
Continue.
you have to be careful with your food intake, especially if you know what your body can deal with. Like, a lot of us have sensitivity to certain types of food, and risking, hey, I can have a little bit of cheese on this platter when you know that that will knock you out for a while is a bit of a problem. Games Week is not a sprint, it's a long distance situation, and you don't want to just destroy yourself on that first day. You don't want to burn bright for one day and miss everything else. I've also got a note at the bottom here with mental health, which I'd like to link to, just jumping around the slide like crazy. Some events are more taxing than others. I was talking to a student a couple of days ago who was talking about what they should be doing at Games Week. And one of the things that they had to do almost immediately was show off their student work at the GCAP showcase, which is fantastic. And I'm so glad that there is someone organizing a GCAP student showcase for them to be able to do this kind of thing. But that particular event is incredibly taxing compared to doing just sitting at a conference, right? And you need to plan that out, especially if you've got all day, you're sitting there with your game, watching people come up, watching industry people come up, some of them being very impressed, some of them looking at it, kind of making a noise and then moving on. That is a very mentally taxing situation, and you need to plan for those limits. You need to make sure that if that's what you're doing during GCAP, you then don't do party, Friday, everything, right? Because you are not going to be at your best after that situation. If you have a really taxing engagement, and especially if you have low social energy, then perhaps what you should be doing is planning some time to recover before you get to the important events, right? Ice Cream Social, which is on Thursday night, is really, really awesome. But if you've just been showcasing your game for 2 days, maybe it would do better if you prepared yourself to go to Megadeth on Sunday. That's the edge of the stage and I can't see it because my left eye is closed. So, I really think that you should be planning out your GCAP experience. You want to be at your best when you need to be at your best. So keep a note of that and make sure that you're planning for it. Personally, I have planned out my big days for being a talk at GCAP and a talk at PAX. Everything in between, I've given myself time to prepare a cosplay. Get some energy so that I'm ready for PAX.
That crown looks sick, by the way. Yeah.
I have spent so much time standing.
Yeah.
So pretty.
Yeah, especially since, and this is a personal thing, this will be my first Games Week. I moved down here from Brisbane earlier this year and have kind of just catapulted myself into things. So I've actually been asking people what to expect of this so that I can make that plan. Because without that knowledge, I can't go ahead.
Welcome, you'll love it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions about, hygiene and sickness? So I'm very sick. And as such, when people have been entering today, and they've gone to hug me, I've told them politely to fuck off. I don't want to spread this disease. But when I'm teaching and when I'm, for example, sitting in a staff room, I actually have this on hand at all times. Because not only does it stop me spreading disease onto everyone else, but it's kind of a sign of keep a safe distance away from me.
Also, it's badass. Fashion statement. I actually carry, and I got into the habit when I lived in Japan, I actually carry an entire pack of face masks with me if I feel like I'm going to get sick or a friend does, and I always have them in my handbag all through Games Week, and I had them for GDC as well. I didn't need them, but I don't know, personally, it's also that I don't want to get other people sick. Because Games Week's important.
People don't realize that, but these face masks, they're not necessarily a you're all disgusting and I do not wish to smell you. It is a situation of you being polite and trying to keep your sickness to yourself. And as we keep stressing over and over again throughout these slides, the Games Group is a community and we're looking out for each other. So don't just infect everyone on the first day of GCAP, wiping them out for the rest of the week. Because then what we do is we have people not attending the community, sniping weary people at the end of the week. Rex.
Sorry?
Nothing. Just a previous conversation.
There is an infamous term called PAX-Pox, which is...
I thought it was PAX Plague.
It's sorry.
My left eye works again.
Conflict.
Nope.
There's a reason those terms are so widely known.
If you're sick, don't shake people's hands. And just explain that you're sick.
Yeah, it's much
Because this is
easier.
where all your germs are.
Because I'm doing this in no particular order, I'd also like to stress the importance of sleep. I don't know how much people underestimate how important sleep is. And all of us need a different amount of sleep, right? I know people who function very well off 5 hours. I need between 7 hours and 35 minutes and 7 hours and 55 minutes. Exactly. And because of that, I know what I should be doing every night, which is sleeping that exact amount. especially since every hour of that you lose is kind of close to being ever so slightly drunk the next day. Who has gone and attended, I don't know, let's say a presentation at university after 2 hours sleep? You're that little bit delirious, a little bit, everything's a little bit floaty. You're more likely to make the mistakes that we're talking about at that point. So make sure that you keep that stuff in mind. And comfort. You're going to be, especially at International Games, you're going to be there for quite a while. So don't build a cosplay that involves a corset and high heels that you'll have to deal with for the rest of the time. I know that personally, up until that point, I will be dressing in something that I can keep going at, but is stylish. We'll talk about style later. There's an excellent slide.
I talk about comfort too.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's about all I wanted to cover there. Does anyone have any questions? It's pretty self-explanatory, right? See, mine was the best because no one had any questions.
It's not a question, it's a statement. But like, I was just going to say on the topic of like networking, meeting people for coffee, something you want to keep in mind is if you're meeting people for coffee, don't have a coffee every time. If you're meeting 5 people a day, if you know you can't have 5 coffees in a day, don't do that.
I'm a 7-a-day girl. I know.
Like Ella knows that she can do 7 coffees in a day,
Which is
whereas I can do 2. So if I had 5, it would just knock me out.
Once again, making sure that you know your limits. You need to make sure that you don't fuck yourself up, essentially. I'm done, basically. Do you want to press the next? Cool, do it.
Go to the bathroom. Yeah.
At least stand up, please.
Yeah.
Yes. Stretch your
Stop.
legs.
On that note, if there's anything that you want to ask me about any of these slides, especially just like personal fashion advice or tips or anything, just come find me afterwards. I was born for this. I love clothes. Like I'm ready. I'm sad I've got to cut it short, but you know what? It is what it is. Okay. So fashion's pretty good, hey? I think so. Great. So I think that it is definitely worth talking about fashion because what you wear immediately signals to someone who you are and what your intentions are. So the way that you view it is fashion is a walking first impression. So if you are wearing, let's say, something that's a little bit ratty and a bit dirty and has stains on it, even if it isn't true of your character, people will assume that you're lazy and don't take care of yourself, which isn't something that people look for when they're hiring. Even if it's as simple as wearing something that's clean, well-fitted, presentable, it already sets you up for such a better first impression so that people aren't already at a negative when they meet you for the first time. You want to put yourself on the best playing field possible. So instead of somebody having to get to know you to raise their esteem of you, if you come into a situation looking well presented, looking professional, someone is already going to take you more seriously and you don't have to work as hard to make a good first impression. So these things are important, and like all skills, like social skills, fashion does not come naturally to people. And especially there's this misconception that fashion has to come naturally to women, and it's just not true. It's a learned skill like any other skill. It's undervalued skill, yes, but it is a skill that with time you can also cultivate. If you don't enjoy fashion, that's totally cool. You don't have to love it, but if you want to get a job, don't look like a silly person. I was going to say something else and realized that it was too rude. So we didn't go that way. So as I said earlier, a well put together style suggests that you are conscientious and that you're professional. It also shows that you have attention to detail, which is always really important when you're going into a hiring situation. So I've heard a lot of horror stories about people going into interviews in outfits that are inappropriate, that show that they don't understand the context of the interview or the industry that they're entering, and it's an immediate red flag to an interviewer, and even talking to someone at a conference, it's another immediate red flag that you don't know what you're doing or you don't understand what is socially acceptable or not. And this also signals, even subconsciously to people, that you don't work well in a team. You know why? Because you have to look after the comfort of the people around you. And if you're dressed in a way that's inappropriate for a conference, it does signal that you're not caring about the comfort of everyone else around you. So game dev, of course, is a lot more casual than other industries. You don't have to rock up in your three-piece suit and your Rolex, like, ready to get a job. That would make people uncomfortable in game dev, okay? Because that is a little bit odd for our industry. But it's about understanding our industry and what constitutes looking professional and well put together within game dev. Yes? Cool? Great?
There's a quick question. You have one?
It was answered by first suit.
Great. I mean, if you want to wear a three-piece suit, I will admire you, but I think you'll make other people uncomfortable. So, on that note, I do want to talk about comfort very quickly. So comfort means different things to different people. So some people are going to be more comfortable wearing things that are physically comfortable. However, it's not just physical comfort that you also need to be aware of. It's emotional comfort and what makes you feel confident and strong. So for example, like I'm dressed quite comfortably for me today. I'm in a dress and a leather jacket and some flat shoes. Anytime you ever see me talking at an event, I will be in stilettos and I will have like 2 pairs of false eyelashes on. And that's because for me, in that moment, that makes me feel strong, makes me feel smart, and it makes me feel professional. Even if others might read the fact that I'm overdressed as unprofessional, and it can happen, it doesn't happen that often when I'm very dressed up, but I want to raise the point that some people will see it that way. For me, that is when I feel the most capable and the most worthwhile. And going into a talk or a presentation that I am giving, especially to an event at a higher level, like something at GCAT where I'm giving one of my first talks, which is really exciting. For me, that's how I feel at my best and at my most confident. So remember that comfort isn't always just physical, it's also what makes you feel good in a space and what makes you feel like you can be the best version of yourself. Because when you feel confident, people around you notice and people feel comfortable around you. So if you are the most comfortable version of yourself in tracksuit pants and a grotty t-shirt, I'm sorry, it's not going to fly. But you don't have to be completely dressed to the nines if you're not comfortable like that either. But also, if that is how you are the most comfortable, I really urge you to do that. So just find a happy medium that works for you, where you're putting across the message that you want to put across to everyone else there, that you also feel comfortable wearing and makes you feel good and confident and at ease. Quickly want to talk about shoes. Yeah, it gets its own section because I've got a mini rant. Soz. I hate joggers. Please don't. I those. No, they're alright, they're fine. Fashion joggers, okay. Fashion sneakers, cool. Sneakers, okay. Anything you would wear in the gym, you don't wear to a conference, okay? This means shoes you would work out in and yoga pants do not belong at a conference. If it's in the gym, don't wear it to a professional event. Cool? I think that's a pretty good rule. Got a lot of feelings about this. Alright?
If you want more shoe advice, there was a whole list of...
Oh my god, I have this. It's a really long list. We're not going to go through it all. You don't have to wear really high-end shoes. You don't have to wear dress shoes. As long as your shoes are clean and look smart, fantastic, and as long as they're not joggers. So a really nice Converse, for example, is really acceptable in our industry as long as they're not falling apart and you haven't written all over them like the emo you were back in high school. Like, get a really nice clean pair of Cons because you know you're going to be comfortable in them. Or, wear a dress shoe if you want, or wear a more relaxed boot. Lots of options. Literally anything other than joggers, yes.
Regarding drawing on Converse and stuff,
yeah.
if it's actually like proper artwork, is that okay? Or
I think if you feel comfortable in it and it doesn't look dirty, live your best life.
What about my Superman high tops?
I think that you can make decisions for yourself.
All right.
Very specific example. You can find me later if you really need to know how I feel about Superman high tops. Just hope that I'm not in a position to hire you. No, I'm joking. They're probably
My soul is so hurting right now.
Looking clean is important, and that's part of presentation. So as I said earlier, don't have lots of stains. If you look clean, people are going to assume you are clean, even if you're not. So, that's a good point to bring up. Look clean. There's definitely a big part of presentation. Remember that, your clothes are important, but the way you put them together is important too. And coming back very quickly to comfort, if you feel confident and good in your clothes, you'll have better body language, which is a huge part of presentation as well, and you'll look comfortable in your skin, and you'll just stand very differently. So do keep all of that in mind when you're doing stuff. Also, make sure you iron things if they crease. I know that a lot of millennials don't know how to use irons. Sort it out. Or get a steamer.
There's a really easy, cheap way to do that.
Shower?
No. When you're washing your clothes, don't let the spin cycle run. Hang them up dripping wet. This is what my grandparents do. Yeah, and it won't
Good
have
suggestion.
really as many creases.
Putting them in the dryer and then immediately hanging them is good too.
Yeah.
Also
Boiling
putting
a
them up
kettle
in the room when you have a shower, but like not in the shower, but like in the room, and it'll steam. Yep. Also put And also, if you really are just like morally opposed to ironing things, just wear things that don't crease, okay? Like, also an option. Brush your teeth. You would be surprised. Yeah, Mike's laughing. You'd be surprised.
Flossing is good too.
Flossing is also good. The note here, I didn't write this note. The note here just says brush your teeth on the day of the event. Maybe brush them
Every
the
day.
morning and the night.
Yeah.
And for every day of the event.
End of the year and of your life. And
Good idea.
Important milestone.
I recommend getting a haircut the week before. If you want to look really smart, you don't have to, but it's definitely an option. There's one other thing, which I think will sort of two, I guess, as well in terms of hygiene, is yes, please wear deodorant. That's important and good. Highly recommend. If you're somebody who gets oily and sweaty, you can get, even from Daiso, they're really cheap, like $2 something. You get little packs of oil wipes, oil-free wipes. You put them on your face and they take the oil away. Blotting paper. Thank you. Blotting paper. I always have them on me at a conference. If you're desperate, find me. But they're just a really nice way of just like tidying up. They help blot oil away from makeup. They also just help blot sweat away. Really nice thing to have, especially if you're going to be going all day. A lot of the time at GCAP, you'll be in talks from like 9:30, 10:30, and then you'll get out of the conference and you won't have time to go home before you have to go to the GDAUs or you have to go to the networking event or something else is on. So having those things on the go is a really good idea as well. Sometimes even just packing a spare shirt, especially if you're sweaty, have a little change before you go to another event, especially if you've been like standing in something for more than 10 hours. Not a bad option. So deodorant is good. One thing that I did want to touch on is cologne.
I think we've got about 1 more minute left.
Okay.
Before we need to move on.
Oh my god, sorry. Cologne is something that I'm a big fan of. Cologne and perfume. Don't use too much, obviously. But this has been scientifically proven and is an interesting little side note, and that is that cologne and perfume obviously have like a very, very strong smell. And when you meet someone for the first time and you leave them with the first impression, scent memory is the strongest memory that human beings have. So if you smell really good, people will remember you as being the person who smelled really good, and they're actually more likely to trust you. So don't wear too much, but like a little bit. You smell nice. Like Nick always smells real good. It's good. It's something to think about. Don't have to, but if you find a scent that you really like, go for it. Yeah.
I would also be careful of when you actually apply it. Don't apply it directly before you meet someone because it's an overpowering
Just
situation.
like spray yourself and you're like, I'm here. Jesus.
You need some time to let it settle before you're no longer an overpowering
Yes.
scent monster.
So put it on like 45 minutes before you leave the house. Just let it settle into your skin. Also, it smells different. Okay, really quickly, general fashion tips. You don't have to worry about trends. Just wear stuff that you're comfortable in and fits you well. You really don't have to worry about changing your wardrobe all the time, especially because that's expensive. Some of the best places to get fashion don't have to be expensive either. For example, op shops are great. This was $5. This was $5. It's cute, right? It's casual, it's easy, $5. Op shops are really good. All the different savers around are amazing, and they're sorted by size, which makes life so much easier. And they have things from very small sizes to plus sizes as well. So you can definitely get a huge range of fashion at really affordable prices. It's also a bit of a luck of the draw, but op shopping's really good. Clearance stores are also a very, very good option. Everything's usually half price. So clearance outlets, go check those out. Yeah. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. You just need to spend a little bit of time. Cool? Next slide. I have some examples. I do apologize in advance that all the examples I could find of fashion are of models, and you're probably not going to look like this, and that's okay. Just putting it out there. These people are also very well dressed. I just want to give you ideas, right?
I look way better than them.
I'll believe it. Oh. You want to banter? I'm down. Who do you think's going to win?
No, we'll do it in
We don't
private.
have time.
T-shirts are really cool. Keep the graphic tees to a minimum. You're wearing a graphic tee.
I'm wearing a jumper.
You're wearing a graphic tee under the jumper.
How do you know that?
X-ray vision.
It's only a little bit of writing.
Okay. You tell yourself that. No, it's fine. I'm just sassing you. Graphic tees aren't bad as long as they're tasteful. So if you're going to wear something really stupid, just don't do it. No one wants that.
Glad you can't see it.
A good way to tell about graphic tees is if they're really bold. Like if they have highly detailed art, it's going to be really distracting. Whereas if you have something that's very subtle, that can be a bit subtle.
Actually, what you're wearing is a really good example. That's fine.
Did you play her in the audience?
I didn't. I should have. So yeah, don't go too crazy with all the slogans and like the silly memes because it's not really that professional and it's really not that funny. So, stuff like this is fine. A little bit of a graphic tee, like a really nice print, isn't too bad as long as it's not, as I said, like, just a cheap joke. These are obviously like very, very well dressed, but I wanted to include some examples of like jeans are a really good option. I mean, I personally am all about skinny jeans, but not everybody wants to wear skinny jeans. But a really nice jean, good shoe, t-shirt, great, awesome. You can definitely do a conference in that. But if you want to go more dressed up, which is probably what I would do, like a button-down, jeans, like chinos, a Henley's a really good example, like a jumper. All of these looks are definitely very acceptable. Don't be afraid to layer. You can just do like some jeans, top, jacket. Always a really good option. Melbourne's always got weird weather, like you never know, so bring a jacket just in case. Yeah, you got lots and lots and lots of options. I'll get to some girl stuff too, don't worry. They're gonna, where do I point it?
Towards the computer.
Hey! T-shirts are good. T-shirts are fine. You can do that as well. I mean, I prefer button-ups. Like, these button-ups look great, but with your best life. This is an example of a capsule wardrobe. This is not my style at all. Obviously, everyone has their own personal style, but this is only like a very limited amount of pieces, all in different ways. And then, obviously, you can go very, very girly if you want. This is all about like whatever makes you feel comfortable. So you could go more casual, you could go more dressy. Here are some examples. Hope you like them. Great, we're moving on.
All these slides will be available after, so if you want to look at the pictures.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm coming back, don't worry.
Alright, attitude. Actually, a lot of these points we've kind of already talked about, so I think this one will go pretty quickly. I mentioned right at the beginning, focus on friendship. So hopefully by now you've all gotten the point of like, networking is not business cards and secret deals, it's like just making friends, which ultimately I think we all like doing, even if it can be hard sometimes. Another big thing in your attitude is when you're going to events and you're kind of in that industry mode, say yes. And that means saying yes to offers from other people, but also say yes to yourself. If you really want to ask someone to go for a coffee or to meet up to another time, or just to be like, they look interesting, I want to talk to them. Say yes to yourself. Let yourself do the things and talk to the people and go to the events that might usually scare you or that you might not usually do. Just giving yourself that openness will go a long way, changing your attitude to be like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. Again, giving is greater than getting. We kind of already touched on that. It's really just about kind of showing other people that you're really interested in what they're doing. Yeah, we've already touched on all of these. This is great.
I just wanted to, because I wrote this,
Yeah.
taking up point
Right.
3 here, where I say don't just talk about yourself. You may have heard, let's say, some advice on TV shows about relationships. And it's like, listen to them, be interested in the things they're interested in. That's a really important point. When you're chatting with someone, you're trying to kind of create a friendship, as we said. So jumping into a conversation going, hello, I do AI programming and I've made some very interesting things. Can I give you my Twitter? Is not going to come off as well as being, hey, this is a little bit about me. Please tell me about yourself. I'm interested. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's a two-way street, and I feel more comfortable when someone approaches me as if it was a two-way street. In regards to saying yes, I'd just like to say that I have spent this entire year focusing on that because I never attended anything really before this year. And I have been focused on doing things like this, joining GDAU, signing up to events. Free Play was the first big conference I went to, and I had a fantastic time. There are even people here who I met just through that one event. And even just chatting on Twitter, them retweeting stuff you make, that small little interaction that you get from being friendly with someone and interested, it can go a long way in the long run. What else do we have here? Well, we're trying to rush through it, right?
We're going to definitely talk about Twitter more because I'll also be touching on how to build a personal brand and what the importance of that is. So.
Open-mindedness. If someone's talking about something that doesn't exactly hit those interest points, I really implore you to keep listening because I've had a lot of interesting topics at these events that I've just listened to the other person gone through and actually found, hey, I'm really interested in this. I'm going to go home and do some investigation about it. And even if you don't end up being interested, that respect is incredibly important. It builds those bonds of friendship.
Absolutely. And you don't know how people are going to or not going to help you. Relationships, just like normal social relationships, like a friend that you make outside of the industry or whatever, that can take months or a year or years to build a really close friendship with someone. So look at these, friendships and this respect and listening to people as if you're kind of building a relationship over a really long period of time because you're ultimately going to see those people again. So rather than going in for the kill and trying to get that thing from them, show them that they're actually more important than that to you, potentially. And you don't know, they might show up being the hiring person at the job that you want to go for. So giving everyone this respect is really going to help you in the long term. And always think about that long term rather than just what you can get right in that second.
Yeah. The last point here, be sure of yourself. It's especially important to those of you out there that are students because, we've been fighting against this idea in GDAU especially of a slight negative stigma towards students at these events. But the important thing is if you're turning up to these events and you're passionate, you're doing everything right, right? You're working hard and you should be confident about that. When you approach people and talk to them, you deserve to be there. And you should approach it with that confidence in mind because confidence really sells yourself a lot of the time. That's really desperately important. And it's especially important for students because it kind of makes a big difference.
Also, being a student doesn't have to limit you.
No, definitely.
Because next week I finish my degree. And I've been working pretty much full-time in games since 6 months into my degree. So it doesn't have to limit you. You can absolutely work in games while studying as well. So just, that's
even if we look at other industries as well, the other thing that I tend to teach a lot is web. And I focus on building confidence in the students from day one. And I've never had a student that hasn't had a job by the end of the first year of their degree because of that. Because pushing that confidence onto others as well, it helps them to be confident as well. If you're in a group of students, make sure that you don't stay insular and that you spread out because, as I said, you deserve to be there. I think that's about all we have to cover on this.
Just before we move on from that one, there was a quote at the bottom that says, I am a game developer. And again, particularly students or people that are new to it might not feel like they can call themselves a game developer yet. So I'm going to be really talky and get everyone to say, I am a game developer together. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so on the count of three, it's not going to be on three, it's going to be up three. So 1, 2, 3, I am a game developer. All right. 1, 2, 3. I am a game developer. All right, one more time.
Jared, do it. No, you can stand up. At least say it.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
I am a game developer.
Yay! Awesome. Congratulations, you're all game developers.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm very proud of you.
Cool.
Okay.
Right, how long do we have left?
I'm getting yeah, that's gonna be so quick, okay? You're getting dot points, I'm sorry team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Alright, I'm going to do this really quick. We're going to do some examples of like bad experiences that I had, but we don't have time, so I'm going to give you some really quick anecdotes. Alright, business card etiquette's a really, really big one because people can do this quite badly, unfortunately. And the biggest point I want to really raise is that you should make your business card feel valuable. Not just to yourself, but to others. And if they receive it, give it to them in a way that it gives the business card value because they'll value the first impression they've gotten from you and they'll value your work and your business card more after that. So don't just give it out willy-nilly and throw it at people, which is what you see a lot of the time when people are networking for the first time. Something that has happened to me several times, and it's been mostly with students. I think it's just about learning the skill, is that somebody will come up and talk to me, and it's clear that they only want to network with me, which is also okay, and they will tell me everything about who they are and what they're doing, and they give me a business card, and not once have they asked my name or what my job is, and if they're only there to network, they don't even know if I can help them. Or if I'm valuable to them in any way. So please don't do that. There is nothing worse. It's really inappropriate and it cheapens any interaction that you've had, and it means that that person in the future I have a lower opinion of because I'm like, you just didn't even ask me my name. Like I'm sitting here, I'm at this conference, like this is an expensive conference. You know, clearly I'm here because I'm in the industry or trying to get into the industry and you don't even want to know who I am. Like it cheapens it.
This literally happened to me. Not the last GDAU, but the one before. Someone literally did this to me. It was like the most ridiculous thing. I'm like, alright, I'm just going to throw that in the
Yeah.
It's like, you do.
And it's already broken like 3 other slides.
Yeah.
So yours got to the mine was
also,
like, woo,
the other thing is, you know what the worst part was? You had given me the business card the previous month and forgot about me.
Oh, that's worse.
That's pretty I know your name, I know your game.
Sorry, Nick. No.
Wasn't you, don't worry.
Another thing to think about is how would you like to be given a business card? What would be valuable to you when someone gives you a business card? How would you like to receive one? In what context and what circumstances would you like to receive one? So think about that when you're going to be giving a business card. And yes, so as I said before, what makes someone feel like getting it is valuable, and that is offering it once you've talked about something that is relevant to your business card. So if you've been speaking about programming and you're a programmer and you've had a really good chat, you're like, oh, it was really lovely to speak to you. Here's my business card. I'm really passionate about programming. I'd love to stay in touch. It doesn't always have to be following up a job. It can just be as a way to contact each other later. So your business card isn't always going to get you work. Sometimes it's a social thing as well, so that you can exchange business cards. And a lot of people have their Twitter or their LinkedIn or a way to contact them. You can follow them up with an email. You can follow them on Twitter. You can even add them as a friend on Facebook if it's appropriate. So that is something to keep in mind as well. And there's a lot of ways to give a business card really graciously. Like, let's say someone's working on a project and you've got a skill set that they could use. You could be like, look, I'm sure you have a lot of people that are interested, but I really love the sound of your project and this is my skill set. I'd love it if you'd consider me. Only if you've sussed it out and you feel like it, would be appropriate to do it with kindness and, be very open when you do it. But that is probably a little bit more extreme. You're not going to be giving out cards and asking for work so much as you're just going to be doing it as a way to stay in touch, and then things will come from that later down the line. Oh, value of a permanent marker. Use a permanent marker, for one, and write on the cards how you met someone. This is really, really valuable and really useful. You've got your little passes, and I recommend putting your business cards in your lanyard, then you always have them on you. You never have to go and find them, you just pull one out. Put your permanent marker in there as well. It's really nice to jot down a few details of what you spoke about and what you would like to contact that person regarding. You're going to meet so many people at conferences, like Melbourne Games Week for one, and then if you go to GDC, like it's overwhelming. You are not going to remember everyone. You're going to look at this business card. You may have had a great discussion and there may be a really good opportunity for work there. But if you don't remember them and who that person was, how are you going to know who to contact? Because you're not going to remember their name. Very unlikely when you've met 100 people in a day you're going to remember everyone's names and be able to put the name to the business card. So keep that in mind. Write down what you spoke about. You can write down the time, the place, whatever helps jog your memory. And that leads really well into email etiquette of like who you're going to email, when you're going to email them, and what does a good email look like and contain. So typically after getting a business card, you're probably going to follow someone on Twitter, add them on LinkedIn, but most importantly, you're going to email them if you want to further a friendship or if you want to stay in touch or if there were any opportunities that were raised when you met that person. So email the people that you have the business cards of. Don't just send out a template email that was like, it was nice to meet you at this event. Cool, don't do that. It feels really forced and people know. Personalize it. When you email someone, I probably wouldn't email them that night also because you're probably going to be at the bar or you're going to be at a party or you're going to be doing some other kind of networking. And people aren't going to be able to reply that quickly a lot of the time. So just give it a few days after the conference when everyone's had time to decompress and become human again. Just send an email then. So pretty much the week after the conference, I try to get my emails out. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. It really depends how tired I am, and it is a lot of work. It's quite time-consuming, especially because you're going to be including in every single email information you've written on that business card to follow up on. So make sure that you mention like an anecdote of when you met or where you met someone, because it's not just the fact that you have to remember them, they have to remember you. Do they need help? Oh, okay. So make sure that you include in that email what sets you apart from everyone else and the moment that you met so that then they also remember you. It's also really good manners and it reflects really well on you. Really sorry to interrupt everybody. I guess we're running out of time, probably. Alright, cool. Yeah, that's what a good email looks like. Sick, done. Next slide. Cool. This is something I actually feel quite qualified to talk about because I work in communications, social media, something that I do a lot. Now, you don't have to develop a strong online personal brand, but it really does help get you jobs, honestly, because if somebody's seen you online and they have an idea of what you're about and what your skill set is and an estimation of your character and value before they meet you, that's really powerful stuff. So you want to be authentic. You don't want to just pretend to be someone else online because when someone meets you in person, they're going to realize pretty quickly that that's not who you are. So don't try to hide things so much, like be yourself, but just make sure that you're kind and in terms of fan pages. Also, it's a bit weird to add people on Facebook that you don't know. I think Twitter's a really good place to start. Don't use Instagram for this. It's not the industry. Other industries like fashion, go for it, not for games. Follow key industry members locally and internationally. Create content that highlights your skill set. It looks different for everyone depending what your skill set is. I'm sorry if you're a programmer. This is much harder for you because it doesn't look pretty. But you can still talk about programming and what you're working on and what issues you're encountering. You can make programmer jokes. I know you guys love your own jokes. So that's cool too. You can do that. Retweet and support content that is relevant to you and retweet and support content of other creators that you want to interact with and that you want to show support for. Because that'll also reflect well on you and it shows the kind of content that you value. Use the word value a lot. Yeah, so interact with your followers and the people that follow you and people in the industry, offer opinions, congratulate people, support people, lots of things you can do. Be positive, be thoughtful, be authentic. Cool? Cool. That was pretty quick. You can ask me more about social if you want at any time. As I said, I work in social. Also, one thing that you should do with social media at conferences is tweet takeaways from the people that are talking. You should do that now. You don't have to. It's fine. I'm just saying that you should do that. My phone's better be doing that right now. Phone's out.
Doing it.
But yeah, so follow speakers on Twitter and retweet takeaways. They'll be really excited and probably follow you back because they're super chuffed about it. But also it shows that you're sharing knowledge and you're interested in learning and upskilling because you're going to talks and you're seeing people talk about things. It's good. Highly recommend doing that. Cool.
Awesome.
Yep, I was quick.
I'm impressed.
Speaking fast.
Let's roll on up. Let's go.
All right. Well, that's cool. So,
Do you like facing that?
yeah.
Oh.
I'd like to give some sort of thanks. So to SAU the space for Jarrett, who did all the graphic design, and also he helped with the snacks and the door and stuff. and all of you for coming along. It's really great that you've been able to support us. This was our first sort of little thing, and I would like to think it's been a success so far. And if you all keep coming, it means we can do more stuff like this, which will be really amazing. Yeah, so I think there's one more thing, which is not that slide.
Downstairs.
Yeah.
So it's a lot later than I thought it would be, but we do have some snacks and stuff, and an opportunity for you to actually network with each other.
If you miss out on asking questions, now's the time.
Yeah, I would say questions maybe
Down
for
there.
when we're down
Yeah.
there, not up here. You have awesome Faye over there.
Web wizard unicorn. It's a full stack unicorn.
Full stack grab stack. We have Ella, comms manager, game developer. We have Jake, game designer, sound designer, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, if anyone's particularly interested in volunteering or about focusing and building long-term relationships and how to do that, that's what I'm really interested in this topic, so feel free to come and chat to me about that.
Passion.
And then there's me, who I'm a full-time producer, game designer, run a massive Discord, maybe you've heard of it. That's about
That's it. Thanks.
Oh wait, one last
Oh,
thing.
no.
Sorry, one very last thing. When we go down there, this is going to be totally optional. Okay, you all can leave if you want to, but I do encourage you to stay for a little bit longer if possible. I have some awesome little quests, which is to do these things. So, introduce yourself to at least 3 new people. Now, the word "new" means someone that you didn't know before you came here tonight.
What if you know everyone in the room?
You're a liar.
I'm not saying I do, I'm just saying, what if someone did?
The
Like...
other person that no one.
Okay, cool.
No one.
Yeah, no worries.
Introduce one of those people to one new person, which is a very cool thing. Throwback to slide 1.
Eat a snack.
Eat one snack.
At least.
At least one snack, yes, please. Because it costs money.
Yeah.
And gain at least 3 new Twitter followers, or set up a Twitter account if you don't have one. Does anyone here not have Twitter? You're a liar.
You have the Twitter account of anyone here with the most followers.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious right now?
I just wanted attention.
That's very Twitter. That's why you got the best Twitter account. Fantastic game you're making. All right.
When's your game coming out, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
Mike.
it. There's this great tweet that I keep quoting now, which is I can't remember who said it, but I keep quoting it. Anytime someone asks me, it's just every time you ask a developer the release date, it pushes it back by 1 day. And it's so good because I just send that to people, and if they get it, they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
No,
No one else.
I do it because I hate it when it happens to me, because people always ask when our next update's coming up for Gems of War when I'm live streaming. So now anytime anyone asks in chat, I have a button that I press and a massive soon TM GIF goes up.
Nice.
And it's very fun. Good time. You should try that.
Alright, well, thank you everyone for coming. We've had a lot of fun. I hope everyone else has had a lot of fun. Please come and ask us questions afterwards, and please talk to each other, and hopefully you can take away some things here and keep thinking about them, thinking about how you can develop kind of what we've talked about in the future things that you do.
If you'd like to get a copy of these slides and all of the awesome little speaker notes, I am going to be putting these in the GDAU, so you have to join it together. That is all. I'm not even joking.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll lead you to the place with the food. Everyone, sorry, everyone. I need to ask you to just please be very, very quiet as we go down, just because there's some film students filming their capstone project, and if you fuck it up,
They will murder
they'll
you.
fuck it up.
Yeah.